Order. I remind the House of what it knows, namely that time available for this debate is very, very limited, and I want to accommodate as many honourable and right honourable members as possible. So we're going to begin with a limit on backbench speeches of 10 minutes, though it is not obligatory to take the full allocation of time. Sir Edward Leigh.
I agree with the honourable gentleman that we should use the language of respect. And I, for one, and I'm sure many of my colleagues would never use words like traitor. And we all accept that there are very different views in this place. But this is not the EU negotiating bill. It is not a bill designed from its inception to try and give the government guidance about what sort of deal we should have. I thought, and this has been explained to us many times by the government, that this bill was simply to try and transfer in an orderly way EU laws into our legal system. That's what I understood it to be. It's not an EU negotiating bill. I said earlier that we should use a language of respect, and I know that it's not in order to call any member disingenuous. But I do think it is in order to call an argument disingenuous. And that is what I do so now. I respect the House of Lords. I understand that they are not elected. I understand that they should try and improve legislation. I serve on the Procedure Committee. I understand that when we consider these matters in the Procedure Committee, there was a detailed debate on the Sifting Committee, and I could understand how the House of Lords could try and improve how we deal with legislation. That seems entirely sensible and credible. But many of us suspect that these amendments, particularly Amendment 19, is not designed to actually improve this legislation, not designed to improve the sifting process by which we transfer these laws. It is actually designed to frustrate the whole process. That is what we suspect. I give way briefly to my honourable friend.
Remember that we had many hours of debate and decisive votes before we sent the Article 50 letter. That was the point when Parliament made up its mind to back the referendum. We can't keep chopping and changing.
I agree with that. So, although, as I was saying, it's perfectly in order for the other place to try and improve legislation, when they seek to frustrate it, then I think people in the elected House should start to get worried. If we look at this Amendment 19, it is very clear. Her Majesty's Government may implement a withdrawal agreement only if Parliament has approved the withdrawal agreement and any transitional measures. Her Majesty's Government must follow any direction in relation to negotiations under Article 50, etc. It's a very clear amendment. What would be the result? I ask colleagues that they're not just acting in a vacuum here. What would be the result if we fail to overturn this amendment from the other place? No. Well, I agree the Honourable Lady does take a different point of view from me, so in all courtesy, that must be the last time I give way.
I'm very grateful for my honourable friend giving way. Does my honourable friend agree that the amendment tabled by the learned member for Beaconsfield deals with the issues that you are that my honourable friend is raising?
No, I don't agree. And I talked to my honourable friend, the Brexit Secretary, earlier today, and he simply said, and he does understand these things, that all my right honourable friends for Beaconsfield Amendment do is implement what the House of Lords want to do in fewer words. So I don't accept it, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that we have to bite this bullet now, and we have to support the government and reject it. I was saying, what would be the result? What would be the result? Because we don't operate in a vacuum if the House of Lords had their way. Of course, it would be a catastrophe for the government. There would be banner headlines in every single newspaper tomorrow saying that the government had been defeated, that the whole Brexit momentum was in danger. And much more important than that, and this is why I think this is disingenuous, is that those who support the House of Lords are dressing up their arguments in terms of parliamentary sovereignty. It is in order, is it not, for Parliament to debate amend, as the other House of Lords can do, a bill. That's what we do all the time. But what they really want to do is create a situation in which the whole process is frustrated. And has been said again and again, we ourselves voted 6-1 to transfer this decision from ourselves, uniquely in our history, to the people. They decided to leave. The decision has been made, and we then voted overwhelmingly, virtually every single Labour and Conservative member, not only to do that, to accept the result, but then to implement Article 50. We've taken the decision. We are a sovereign parliament. We've made that decision, but we have given that decision to the people. So I repeat, and I go back to my argument, what would happen now if the House of Lords had their way and the government lost this afternoon? Many members, of course, opposite, they're entitled to cause confusion to the government ranks. I accept that they may have their own motives. But I appeal to my friends here. What would be the result to our government if we lost this vote today? What would be the result to our government? It would be a catastrophic blow. And I return to the question that I put to my right honourable friend early in this debate. What would the European Commission think of it? Now, my right honourable friend for Rushcliffe had a bit of fun about this. No, he had a bit of fun about this. He said, oh, of course the European Commission know that there are some arguments and debate. It would be an open invitation to the European Commission to actually pave the way for this catastrophic situation in which there is no deal, because they know if there was no deal, if there was going to be this disorderly exit, the House of Commons could unpick the whole process, block Brexit, as the Honourable Gentleman for Stoke said, and reopen the whole process.
These arguments are put, almost as forcefully as Barbara Friends putting them, when we had the debates before Christmas on the committee stage. And this House then passed an amendment on a meaningful vote and defeated the government. Now, people had foreseen this would undermine the Prime Minister, cause an election, be a crisis. The next morning, apart from the fact there was now to be a meaningful vote, nothing stirred. The position of the Prime Minister was not weakened. The negotiations have not been hindered. These are, with great respect, they're arguments he's putting with his usual great eloquence, but they really are avoiding what we're really talking about, which is the important process of parliamentary accountability.
Well, I'm afraid that my honourable friend wasn't listening to his own speech. Did he not say earlier, was I not listening? Was I not 2 or 3 feet away from him when he said that the amendment that we passed earlier wasn't going to make much difference to the whole process? It was about giving a statement, wasn't it? So this is completely different what we are talking about. Yeah. This really is the ultimate wrecking amendment. And it's not wrecking of parliamentary sovereignty, it's wrecking of the will of the people. Of democracy. And there are so many things, so many compromises that we all have to make. So many things that I don't understand about this negotiating process. So many things I don't understand about how we've got stuck on the hook of Ireland. I don't know, so on the backstop, Max Fact, all these other things. But the essential is this. The people want us to leave the EU. They want to regain control of their borders. They want us to be out of the European Court of Justice. All this bill does, it is not the EU negotiating bill, it is simply to implement the will of the people. Parliament, don't stand against the people, implement their will.
Sir Vincent Cable.
Mr. Speaker, I think there are